All right, Robby, what's on your radar?
Well, yesterday in my radar, I explained why so many members of the mainstream media are losing their minds over Elon Musk's acquisition of Twitter. They're afraid that if Musk makes the platform's rules more favorable for free speech, their power to control the conversation and brand all dissenting views as disinformation and harassment, that power will come to an end. So it should come as no surprise that the Biden administration is expressing similar, albeit more cautious, concerns about Musk's Twitter takeover as well. Here was White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki reacting the other day.
Just a quick one on the breaking news, Twitter agreeing to let Elon Musk go through this purchase. Do you have a response to that? And does the White House have any concern that this new agreement might have President Trump back on the platform?
Well, I'm not going to comment on a specific transaction. What I can tell you as a general matter, no matter who owns or runs Twitter, the president has long been concerned about the power of large social media platforms, the power they have over our everyday lives, has long argued that tech platforms must be held accountable for the harms they cause. He's been a strong supporter of fundamental reforms to achieve that goal, including reforms to Section 230.
So that wasn't the only time Psaki mentioned Section 230 either. Here she is responding to a question which I believe is from our dear friend Philip Wegman.
And we would support taking, including reforming Section 230, enacting antitrust reforms, requiring more transparency, and the president is encouraged by the bipartisan support for or engagement in those efforts.
So why the sudden interest in reforming Section 230 now that Elon Musk is set to take control of Twitter? Now, in fairness, the interest is actually not sudden. Biden has long held that Section 230 should be eliminated. He previously said, quote, Section 230 should be revoked immediately, should be revoked, number one, for Zuckerberg and for other platforms. So confusingly, Democrats have managed to bring many Republicans on board with this idea of changing or getting rid of Section 230. No less an authority than former President Donald Trump has railed against 230. At a Georgia rally a year ago, he said that we have to get rid of Section 230 or we won't have a country anymore. And in fact, Republicans who support getting rid of Section 230, well, they're getting played by Biden, Psaki, etc. Because without Section 230, social media would become even more hostile to conservative speech. And many viewers are probably asking right now, okay, what even is Section 230? So allow me to explain. Section 230 is a federal statute that protects internet platforms from some speech-related liability. For instance, if I say something defamatory in this video, I can be sued just like anyone else, but YouTube cannot be sued because Section 230 treats me rather than YouTube as the speaker. So the reasons for having this law are, I think, fairly obvious. If YouTube, Twitter, or Facebook were legally responsible for all speech on the platform, well, then they would have to moderate way, way more aggressively. Maybe only people with blue check marks would get to post at will. Maybe you'd have to fill out an application and prove that you wouldn't post content that could get the platform in trouble. Something like that. Section 230 creates the legal regime that permits the internet to exist as it does right now, without gatekeepers reviewing posts or videos before they appear on the platforms. Now, of course, I disagree with many of the individual content moderation decisions that the platforms make. People are not wrong to complain that the moderation has been too heavy-handed. We have countless examples of that. But getting rid of Section 230 wouldn't fix that problem. In fact, it would make it much, much worse because there would have to be much more approving of what posts are appearing. Now, political figures like Biden and like Psaki, I think they realize that, which is why they do want to see the law abolished. Without Section 230, companies like Facebook and Twitter, they'd have to carefully screen content. They'd purge problematic posts, which of course means purging more of the kind of posts that they already purge too aggressively, which is exactly what the Biden administration wants. They want more purging of content that they don't agree that relates to COVID and, other things of that nature. There's no doubt they want it even more desperately now that Elon Musk is taking over Twitter and will possibly have a different regime and allow more free speech kind of content. So there'd be no better way to throttle this new Twitter that Musk is creating than to subject it to endless, frivolous lawsuits that are currently kept at bay by Section 230. As Steve Del Bianco of NetChoice, a tech trade association, put it, the biggest threat to Elon Musk's vision of a less moderated Twitter is Section 230 reform, which is why I'm not surprised at all to hear Jen Psaki mentioning it repeatedly the other day. So, this is, and Republicans have totally, in my view, been hoodwinked by this because many of them, I'm not sure as much now, but Trump and other Republicans have talked incessantly, change 230, get rid of 230. And like, I get it, that would definitely punish the platforms. It would make their lives more difficult. But it would be like the Thanos snap of conservative speech. You would just like instantly clear out everyone's ability to post at will. So how that benefits dissident voices it doesn't. It makes no sense to me that people were really believing that that was the right strategy.
I agree with you 100% on the Section 230 issue. It's amazing that so many Republicans have been hoodwinked into agreeing with this. I agree with you. The reason why Democrats want it is because it allows them to really to hold the platforms accountable and say, well, now you have to censor these voices, because if you don't, you could be held liable. Like Elon Musk, do you really want to be held personally liable for all of the rhetoric that people are going to be putting up there? Now you're going to be potentially liable for an insurrection or for whatever violence, individual violence against one person or another. I mean, you're going to be the one responsible for all of that, because people are going to sue you endlessly, and that allows them to sue you endlessly if we get rid of Section 230. Now, there's no doubt, I think Section 230 needs to be amended. I definitely don't think we should be getting rid of it, because then it will just turn the internet into these platforms they just won't allow us to say anything really anymore, because they don't want the liability. They'll be protecting themselves. So instead, they'll just stick to just blue check type, for Twitter, for example, and it would be a very small select group of people.
Horrible. that
the company, says, well, and they make them sign contracts saying you can't say anything that's going to cause harm to the company or, XYZ. So it does need to be amended, though, because I do understand the issues with it, where from the Republican side, where they say, well, you guys have this protection and yet you're instead still censoring. So you're not operating as a free and open internet. That is not the reason why there's Section 230 is to allow a free and open internet to protect you from the things some person might post on your platform, because you're just offering a platform. Now what's happening is these media companies, these social media companies, are operating like publishers, and they're picking and choosing what things can be said, what things can't be said. That is not the same thing as a free and open internet where people can just say whatever they want within bounds of legality, right? You can't say things that are totally illegal no matter what. But they're not operating that way. They're operating like publishers. So that's why Republicans are threatening and saying, well, I mean, why do you even have this protection if you're still going to act like a publisher and censor people? But the answer is not to make it worse.
Right. There are probably some tweaks to it I would end up supporting, but my concern is that if we open it up at all to revision, I mean, well, and right now, the Democrats control the Senate anyway. I worry about opening it up to revision at all will end up making it worse, because some of the idea, like, I understand. Okay, in theory, you want to condition, or some Republicans want to condition this liability protection on the platforms operating in some neutral way. So could we write that into the law? But then it's like, well, okay, but then who's going to decide whether they're being neutral? Like Josh Hawley's idea was to have a panel of senators. I don't really want like Josh Hawley and Elizabeth Warren debating whether content is sufficiently neutral. Like that doesn't seem. That seems like they could decide content critical of them is not neutral, right? So the schemes for trying to figure that out always end up they sound maybe good in theory. I don't like the way they look ultimately, because even Elon Musk wants to get, it's not just illegal speech we want off the platform. Elon Musk has said he wants to crack down on spam, right? Well, spam's not criminal speech. It's a category of speech that he thinks shouldn't be on the platform, but it's not, that's carving out something that the First Amendment does protect. So there are, I think most people agree that there's some level of nastiness and unpleasantness and harassment and doxing that, even if it's not strictly illegal, shouldn't be on these platforms. So, I don't want to prevent or stop their ability to police that kind of stuff. And I think most people don't.
Right. No, I think really with Section 230, what it comes down to is just a little bit more clarification on when you're a social media platform and when you've crossed the line, you've become a publisher. Mm-hmm. And if you are a publisher, then you are no longer protected by Section 230. And that is something you would choose. You would agree to that as a platform. So Facebook could say, and I think it would cause the platforms to separate themselves a little bit. So Facebook, for example, could say, okay, we have a publishing arm of the platform, and then we have a social media arm of the platform. The social media aspect of it is protected by Section 230. People say whatever they want. Then we have, our curated publishing news section where, you go to and you click on that site and you're getting a more curated experience where they are kind of acting as editors and they get to decide what they want to publish and push and what they don't. I think that's fair enough to somehow write into it what makes you a platform and what are you have to check certain boxes in order to be considered this, versus now you've become just a publisher and you're now competing with like the Washington Post, I guess, and New York Times and their websites. Right. A
lot of Republicans talk about that distinction, but that always baffles, because that distinction, right? So maybe if you're saying, we should change the law to clarify that distinction, that would be one thing. But a lot of people talk about it right now. Like, that distinction doesn't exist in the law right now. It doesn't even use those two words. It doesn't define them. Right. It doesn't. So some people are saying, well, if you lose the protection if you do. Well, no, you don't. It's not in the law right now that you lose that you have to choose one or the other. But if we change it, obviously. But I worry that would be. But anyway, it's interesting to see Psaki increasing the kind of Section 230 talk now that Elon Musk is in charge. How interesting.
Now it's important to get Republicans to stop also going along with this so that we end up getting rid of Section 230. Then suddenly there would be no free speech anymore at all.
Right. What would we do? All the comments are gone on our goodbye comments on YouTube. Yeah, that's gone at a bare minimum. Yeah. We'd have to be even more careful about what we say.
Yeah, so.
All right, well, coming up, Congressman Madison Cawthorn is in hot water again. The latest with that, we will discuss the potentially insider trading stuff, some other things. Stick around for that.